Hi there, Laurel everybody. Welcome to another Simply Card Making video with me. Today I'm going to make this shaker. I know I'm making a shaker, which is shocking. I'm really trying to get more comfortable making them because they're just so cute. And I'm going to be using some products from the new Ellen Hudson Essentials by Ellen release, designed by Julie Ebersole. This is the second holiday release, so this was such a little treat to have a second release. So I'm going to be using the Tis the Season stamp sets, which is from a previous release, but for this release she released coordinating dies, which I was so thrilled about because I love this stamp set. I think it is absolutely adorable. From the Hip Cool Santa here that I'm about to stamp to that little gingerbread cookie with the missing leg and that Sentiment Oh Snap, it cracks me up. So I'm going to take this Santa and I'm going to stamp him or ink him up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It's a pigment ink, and because it's a pigment ink, it sits on top of the paper so it stays wet longer. So I can cheat and sprinkle on some embossing powder, some clear embossing powder, and heat set it. I like using embossing powder whenever I can. I'm going to add a little bit of watercolor, but really not a lot to make a huge bit of difference. But I just really liked the defined black lines the heat embossing leaves behind, and also that little bit of shine, so it worked real well for the sunglasses. So I've gone ahead and heat set that with my heat tool, and now I'm going to grab two different colors of these real color, clean color, real brush markers. I can never remember the name, oh my goodness. But I'm just going to go in and color this very easily with just two markers. You can use any coloring medium you have, colored pencils, Copic, Spectrum Noir, kids crayons, whatever floats your boat. I'm just going to add a little bit of color to the hat, and I'm going to add a little bit of color to Santa's face. And I am working off of some Bristol paper. Actually, I don't think I mentioned that before. I find that Bristol paper and 90-pound cardstock watercolored paper works great for me when using these markers. I've used many other markers and they just didn't blend well, but when I use these markers with these particular papers, they blend beautifully. So I'm using a water brush here, which is just filled with water, and I'm lazy, so I just spritz some more water onto my craft sheet there, and I'm just going in and blending. You can see how easy it is to blend right over there. And that's pretty much it. You can also use these markers without water too. You can color them straight onto the paper and not even go in with water. Now this is some liquid applique. I've had this forever, so it's quite old, several years old. But what I'm doing is going in and just filling in the beard and the mustache there. And then when you add heat to it, it makes it poof up. So it's super cool. So I went ahead and added some to the little dot, the little ball in his hat too. And when you add heat to it, it just kind of bubbles up, and then it ends up looking like, in this instance, it's going to look like fur, hair for a beard. It looks real cute for critters and creating fur. And if you keep your heat gun on it long enough, it'll kind of burn the liquid applique and kind of give it that like caramel color. Cute for s'mores, just saying. So I grabbed my Wink of Stella and I'm going to go over the hat with the Wink of Stella in clear. Now when I did add the Stella over the red part of the hat, it did reactivate the watercolor, so I was just careful to just kind of swipe it off on my craft sheet before taking it to the clear part of the hat. This is a die called Avery. It's by Avriel. It's called Burst, and I love it. So I've gone ahead and die cut all that out. I'm trying to prep my shaker here. So I've got my die cut panel. I've got a black piece of cardstock that's going to be the backing, and I also die cut some fun foam and a piece of plastic I just cut out with some scissors. So I'm going to take some glue. I usually use Ranger Multi Matte Medium, but I couldn't find it, which is crazy because I have like 72 bottles. But anyway, so I'm going in with a mono multi-liner glue, and I just went ahead and adhered that plastic down, and that's going to be the window of my card. And now I'm going to take this anti-static powder tool and kind of rub it around on the inside, so when I add my sequins, it doesn't all get stuck in there. I'm going to do this a couple times. You can use baby powder, cornstarch. My friend Laura uses kitchen flour, just to kind of anti-static it so things don't get stuck where you don't want it. So I went ahead and added some glue to that fun foam as well. That's going to be the dimension part, so it gives us room for the shaker to move around. So I've got all that added up, and I'm just going to take a piece of scissor and kind of chomp off the bottom part there. And then make sure once that glue completely dries, everything stays put. But I like the liquid glue because you have a little bit of time to wiggle your stuff around if you need to make sure that, to get it in the right spot. You know what I mean? Sometimes I offset my stuff. So that's another reason why I like using liquid glue. So I'm going back in with that powder tool one more time. I don't want anything getting stuck on the sides or getting stuck on the inside. Now here's the coordinating die for the Santa. Now here's my boo-boo. I left it in, but I would advise you die cutting this out before, you know what I'm going to say, right? adding the liquid applique. Yep, because I ended up smushing it all down when it ran through my die cutting machine, which, hello, I should have known that was going to happen anyway, so no worries. I'm going to go back in and re-add all the liquid applique and heat set it with my heat tool again, and no one will know the difference. But I'm just saying, you might want to go ahead and add all, die cut your little image first to avoid silly mistakes like the one I just made. I know, maybe, but when I made this shaker, I hadn't had my cup of coffee. That's a possibility. So now I'm going to take this sentiment that says "Dashing through the snow," and I felt like I needed to sing that for some reason. I think it's so cute. I love all these little punny sentiments. And I'm going to stamp that on some black cardstock. So I'm going to prep it with that same little anti-static bag tool here. Again, a dryer sheet would even work for this if it's not a product or tool you have. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up with some white unicorn ink. It's by Hero Arts, and sprinkle on some white embossing powder. You could have also stamped it with Versamark ink as well. And then I'll go ahead and heat set that as well. Then when it's all done and dry and cool, I can wipe off any of that excess powder, that little haze that's left behind. I love white sentiments on black cardstock, and I like watching it when it melts. I just think it's so cool. So now it's time to put all the bits and turn this baby into a shaker card and hope and pray that stuff doesn't come flying out when I seal it up, which has been what has happened to me in the past. I thought it was perfect. I go to shake it and they just go flying everywhere. Does that ever happen to you? So I've got a little bowl, so I'm taking sequins from my stash and I'm just pouring them into this bowl to get a good little mix of something that I like. Most of the sequins that I have are from the Ton stamps. So a lot of these are from the Ton, and then I've got a couple of other random bags of sequins. I'm just making a mix of something that I like, and I love those snowflakes, but I don't know where they're from, but they're so cool. They're silver and white, and I loved the effect that it left behind in the shaker. So I'm just going in and pouring it all into a bowl, and then I'm going to go in and just dump it into that little cutout there and just kind of whatever and see how it looks and kind of mix it around with my finger. And now I'm going to seal up my shaker. So I'm going to take that same liquid glue that I'm using and just going around the edges here and just crossing my fingers that this stuff dries and nothing flies out all over the place when it's done. Now again, I like using liquid glue for this because it gives me the opportunity to kind of move my stuff around and make sure I have it where I need it to be before it's secure and set. So far so good. I'm liking how everything's moving around. So I was toying around with a black card base or a teal card base, and I went with teal. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down. Now, as you can clearly see, the card base is too long for this card, so I'll end up trimming it down at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on, kind of even it up here on the center. And my shaker's starting to come together. At this point, you don't understand how proud I was of myself at this point for even making it this far with the shaker. Shakers look so effortless. I watch a lot of people that make shakers, like Laura Sturks is like the queen of shakers to me. And it's just so effortless. And, a shaker takes me like 3 hours to make. I'm just not even kidding. And then they're like, doop, doop, here, done. A little bit jealous. So I'm taking my little Santa here, and I'm going to add some foam dimension and kind of pop him up over there to the left-hand side. And I've already got my sentiment there ready to go. I just need to cut that down. So I'm going to grab some scissors, and I'm going to make it a banner at the end. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut down the ends and then kind of make a little upside down V and make a little banner tail here at the end. So I cut right down the middle, and then I just go from the corners in until I meet in the middle, and it makes a little upside down V, really. Then I've got my nice little banner here. So for here, I thought I would just add a little bit of liquid glue there on the end. And then I'll go in with a couple pieces of dimension because I want it raised up, but I'm not going to add dimension all the way to the end. I'm only going to add a couple pieces and then leave the end, hanging out by itself. I like adding foam dimension. I love, the look that it leaves behind. And I also like that it sometimes leaves a little shadow in the background. So I'm just going to pop that right under there. And once all this glue dries, none of this stuff is going anywhere. It's completely permanent. So I'm liking how this looks. So here's where I took my scissors because I didn't want to risk messing up my shaker and running it through my paper trimmer. So I just took my scissors and trimmed that down. And then I'm going to go back in with my white gel pen. This is how I cover up some mistakes. Sometimes when I color, I go outside the lines and it bleeds over. I just take a white gel pen and go around the edges and nobody will ever know. Also giving a little bit of a little effect on those sunglasses there. And look, shaking around and nothing's falling out. Yes, I'm clapping for myself. What can I say? So there you go, shaker, using the cool 'Tis the Season stamp sets by Julie Ebersole with the coordinating dies that they just released. Be sure to check out the supplies below because I've linked to the products that I used, and head on over to my blog for more information and pictures. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would love for you to click that button right there. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.